All right, let's move on to the writing and the speaking. Now, the writing is divided into two tasks, test 1 and test 2, for which you will be allocated 60 minutes. 60 minutes will be the time allocated whether you do the general or the academic training module. Now, there is a big difference between the general and the academic training module for the writing task. Now, for task 1, you will be given 20 minutes, and for task 2, you will be given 40 minutes in both cases. Now, let's look at the differences. In the academic training module, task 1 is describing graphic data and or a diagram. You will be assessed on your ability to organize, present, and compare data, describe a process, describe an object, event, or sequence of events, explain how something works. You must write at least 150 words. And I already know your question, and the answer is yes, they actually do count the words. So you better do it, because if you do not write at least 150 words, you will be marked down. With the general training module, task number 1 is writing a letter. You will be assessed on your ability to write a personal or formal letter, ask for and provide factual information, express needs, wants, likes, and dislikes, express opinions and complaints. You must write at least 150 words, and yes, they do count the words. Now let's look at task 2. In both cases, it is writing an essay. What differs is the type of essay or the type of writing, the level of writing that is expected. Of course, with the academic module, it will be a bit higher. Now, with the academic module, you will be assessed on your ability to present the solution to a problem, present and justify an opinion, compare and contrast evidence, evaluate and challenge ideas. You must write at least 250 words, and yes, again, they do count the words. With the general training module, you will be assessed on your ability to provide general factual information, outline a problem and present a solution, present, evaluate, and challenge ideas. Again, 250 words. Just like for the reading module, with the writing module, I would suggest to start from task number 2. For the same reason, it is a bit more complex and you might need a little bit more time. But again, if you have performance anxiety and you'd rather have your task number 1 done because it will make you feel better, start from task number 1. I recommend personally to start from task number 2, just because if you need a couple of extra minutes, you might want to spend them on, you might want to have them for task number 2 rather than for task number 1, which is easier. Again, time yourself because you might think that you have enough time, but you will find out soon that you will need the 60 minutes. With the writing task is one of the most difficult in the IELTS test. And the difficulty is not so much writing in English, because I have seen a number of students writing quote unquote perfect English, no grammar mistakes, good range of vocabulary, everything, but not knowing how the writing should be structured for the IELTS test. So it is all about learning how to structure your writing. It is my experience that if you translate from your language into English an essay the way you would write it into your language, 9 times out of 10, it wouldn't work. because the writing conventions are different. And that is what we will learn during this course. Let us not worry about it now. You got me. I will guide you through it. Right now, all you need to know is we will learn how to structure. I will teach you how to structure your writing. Now, let's move on to the speaking module. The speaking module will last anywhere between 11 and 14 minutes. The speaking module consists of an oral interview between you and an examiner. It is divided into 3 parts. Part 1 is an introduction and an interview. The examiner introduces themselves and asks questions about familiar topics, for example, your home, family, job, and interests. You will have to speak between 4 and 5 minutes. That is very, very basic. We all know how to introduce ourselves, how to talk about our home, our job, our interests, our hobbies. Easy. Piece of cake. Let's move on to part 2, individual long term. The examiner will give you a card which contains a topic and some prompts and asks you to speak for 1 to 2 minutes on the topic. The examiner asks 1 or 2 questions to round off the long term. You will have to speak for 3 to 4 minutes, including 1 minute preparation. Now let's look at how this works. You will be given this card. On this card, there is 1 sentence and a few prompts. How difficult is it? It really depends whether you like the topic or not. If you're lucky and you like the topic, easy. If you know, it will not be a technical topic, but sometimes there are like difficult questions to answer. For example, once I did it, and it was the question was something like, think of a toy that you had when you were a child, and then the prompts were, who gave you that toy? How did you play with it? And I just didn't know what to say because obviously I'm no longer 12 years old, and it was difficult for me to think of a toy and the attachment to the toy and who gave me a toy and how I played with the toy, you know. So I found that part difficult, not because I can't speak English, but because I didn't know what to say. Anyway, regardless, find something to say. You will have 1 minute and you will be given a piece of paper and a pen, so you will be able to write down dot points that will help you remember what you want to do, what you want to say. Okay, try to speak for 3-4 minutes, because the more you speak, the less the examiner will intervene with questions. So it's better if you find a way to speak. Part 3 is a two-way discussion. The examiner invites you to take part in a discussion of a more abstract nature based on questions thematically linked to the part 2 topic. And this will last between 4 and 5 minutes. Now, for me, this part was actually a bit more, it was actually easier. Because, for example, whereas I had difficulties here because I couldn't think of a toy that I had when I was a child, this part, for example, the question related to it was something along the lines of, why do you think playing is important for children? So, you know, I could show off a bit with my knowledge about developing skills that a child will need in the future life. And so that I was a lot more comfortable with an abstract topic rather than remembering what toy I had as a child. That is very personal. However, I don't know how comfortable you are with more abstract topics, but that is what is required of you. This is more of a two-way discussion, but again, I would encourage you to speak as long as you can, as much as you can, in a way that, because if you do that, the examiner will intervene less. And I will give you a few pointers throughout the course, I will give you some advice on how to integrate some complex grammatical structures in your speaking, because there's a few structures that IELTS examiner particularly appreciate. So this, as I said, this course is not based on grammar. We will look at some grammar, but it's not grammar focused. It's focused on making you pass the IELTS test successfully with the mark that you require. So I will give you some advice on what to do in a way that it would be easier for you to get the score that you want. And as we progress with the course, I will give you pointers. There are some structures that when you are able to integrate those structures in your spoken language, they really, really make an impression on us teachers. So I will guide you through that. So we will be looking at, we will be using Objective IELTS Intermediate as a textbook for our course. Here you see the objectives test folder, yeah, and that is a reference that we will use throughout the course to go and to do some practice. I will guide you through. I will give you some guided practice. Now, in our next lesson, I wanna go over the band descriptors or the benchmarks. What are benchmarks? The benchmarks are the criteria with which you will be evaluated. Once you know the test criteria, it will be easier for you to know what your target is, how to get to your target, rather. So I encourage you to go on www.ielts.com.au for Australia, where you can see where the testing centers are. There's testing centers in all the big city, all the major cities. And once you enroll, you will have access to 3 practice tests. But if you follow me, we will do practice tests throughout the course. We will start, as I said, in our next lesson, we will look at the benchmarks, the descriptors, and we will start looking at some reading passages, how they ask the questions for the reading passages, some of the reading questions. Then we will do small tasks, like we will start with writing. We will try to simulate speaking. Anyway, it will be a lot of fun. I look forward to seeing you in our next class. Bye.